Okay. Hello and welcome. I'm Rowan from the Fulbright Commission in Ireland. Here with me is Angelina. She's a program manager in the UK Fulbright Commission. Paula Melvin, who is my colleague in the Irish Commission. She is an awards manager. And joining us shortly will be Maeve Moriarty. She is a Fulbright alum and she's also a senior aquatic epidemiological modeler for the Marine Scotland Science, and she is finishing off a PhD in Ulster University, and she'll be giving us some insights later into her experience with Fulbright. So with that, I will hand over to Paula and share my screen here.
Thanks a million, Rowan. Rowan's internet tends to be stronger, so he kindly offers to share the screens for myself. My name is Paula. I'm awards manager with the Irish Fulbright Commission. I'm delighted Angelina's here. We do very similar roles, herself with the UK Commission, myself with the Irish Commission. Just from the offset, there are different rules in each jurisdiction. So say the French Commission will have different rules, as will the German Commission, as does the British and Irish. So I'm delighted Angelina can join us today. So the Fulbright Commission, the program was set up in the United States in 1946 with funds left over from the World War. In 1957, Ireland joins Fulbright, and in 1991, we were set up as an official commission in the Republic of Ireland. Nowadays, in 2021, 180 countries are part of the program. Next slide, please. Who is Fulbright for? So Fulbright, quite simply, is for everyone. For students, scholars, artists, teachers, and professionals from all disciplines to research, study, teach, and lecture in the United States. Next slide, please. So what does Fulbright consist of? A monetary grant that's tax-free on our side anyway. Visa administration, so your host institution does not arrange your visa, myself or my colleague Sonia in our case in the Republic of Ireland or in Ireland do. Accident and emergency insurance, cultural and professional programming before, during and after your award, and ongoing support and links to a global network of Fulbright alum. It gets called the Fulbright family quite often. Next slide, please, Rowan. Your Fulbright doesn't have to kind of end when your award ends. There's that lifelong recognition and join global peers. So there's the Irish Fulbright Alumni Association, and there's also the Ireland United States Alumni, and you can get involved in the board. There's so many opportunities when you finish your Fulbright. It really doesn't have to end when you return to your home. Next slide. So Fulbright alumni, we have campus ambassadors on all campuses, or at least we try to have campus ambassadors, alumni on all campuses in Ireland. So we'll be hearing from Maeve Moriarty later. She's a Fulbright Irish student alumna. And she actually did something quite interesting in the sense that she did something unusual. She split her time between Alaska Pacific University and Cornell University. So there is an option to go to multiple institutions in the States, whereas it's less likely for students to do it. But we'll be hearing from Maeve later on about her experience in the States. So establish your eligibility. So the Irish Awards are open to Irish and US citizens who are resident in Ireland for 3+ years. So if you have an Irish passport, it does not matter if you're resident in the 6 counties or Northern Ireland or in the Republic of Ireland or in France or Germany or whatever. If you're an Irish citizen, you are eligible to apply to the Irish Commission, provided you are not resident in the United States at the time of application. EU citizens who are resident in the Republic of Ireland for 3+ years are eligible to apply. You must demonstrate a strong national rationale for where you're going in the United States. So it can't just be you want to go to Hawaii for a tan, or if you have certain interests in Vegas, your strong rationale, it must be robust, as in, I want to go to wherever, Maine, Delaware, wherever, because they do this master's that isn't offered in Ireland, or because I want to go to South Carolina to work with a certain professor because there isn't this expertise in Ulster University or in the UK or in Ireland. And this is the reason I need to go to the United States. You must comply with the 2-year home rule requirement. So it doesn't matter if you go to Fulbright, if you get a Fulbright, go to the United States, fall in love, marry an American, and have American children. When your award period is over, you might get an extension to kind of complete a body of work, but after that, you must come home and undertake the 2-year home rule before you can go back to the United States and get a visa to work and live in America. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get an ESTA during that time or visit the States on holidays or give a lecture, but you cannot get that kind of visa to apply and live there. Cannot be a dual US Irish citizen, so you cannot have an Irish citizen, be an Irish citizen and an American citizen. And you cannot be living in the US time of the application. And you cannot have recent extensive experience of living or working in the United States. So say we take that to mean that 4 out of the past 5 years living or working in the United States. Next slide, please, Ron. So the application process, from what I hear from academics, it is kind of a vigorous process, but other grants are much longer. The main difference, in my opinion, between this academic grant application process and others is that this one really focuses about you, who you are as a person, and not just about the academic side of things. Next slide, please. And so the application timeline doesn't really change from year to year. Towards the end of August every year, the applications for Irish awardees opens. Around Halloween times, the application process closes. During November, my colleague Sonia and I, who are my fellow awards manager, we find 3 experts both within Ireland and internationally to review your project, who are experts in your field but who do not know you. And then the interviews, those called for interview will be asked to come to Dublin to our offices to undertake interview in January and February. Hopefully COVID will allow in-person interviews by January and February 2022, I really hope. And then March is very much so a bittersweet month, in the sense that we have the absolute pleasure of phoning people and emailing people and informing them that they were successful at interview. But we also let people know that they've been unsuccessful. I just see the question there popped up. Can Northern Irish resident with a British passport apply for this award? So a Northern Irish resident with a British passport cannot apply for the award with the Irish Commission. If you want to apply for an Irish passport, you can apply to the Irish Fulbright Commission if you have an Irish passport by the time you submit your application. However, Angelina can answer that question later on. Are you eligible to apply for the UK Commission? So now is the time definitely to get planning. So review the interest on our website, fulbright.ie, if you're interested in applying through the Irish Fulbright Commission. Choose your award. Choose your award then. So are you a student or a scholar? Can you apply for sponsored award? Find a course and plan a research proposal. Research what it means to be a Fulbrighter. Like I said, Fulbright really is about you as a person. So definitely research what it means to be a Fulbrighter. Fulbright's kind of about the greater good. It's not just about what you're going to do inside the lab or inside the library. It's really about that. What are you going to give back? What are you going to bring from Ireland or Northern Ireland with you to the United States? And what are you going to take back from the United States to where you live? It's not just about, say, if you're a scientist, it's also, do you speak Irish? Do you play GAA or whatever it is? Do you play music? Do you want to pick up something in the States and bring that back home to Ireland? Because it really is about the greater good. And register your interest on Fulbright.ie. Next slide, please, Rowan. Sorry, there's another question here from David. So a Northern Ireland resident with an Irish passport applies to the Irish Commission. That is exactly it, David. If you're from the north or 6 counties of Northern Ireland, whatever way you want to say it, if you have an Irish passport, yes, you can apply through the Irish Fulbright Commission. So then the different awards categories. There's the Irish Student Awards. Fulbright is postgraduate. So the Irish Students Awards are for people to go and do masters or PhDs, primarily in the United States. So you have to have an undergraduate degree. Then the Scholars is for academic or professional research or lecturing. So scholars are people generally who have 5 years professional experience or who have PhDs. And then the Irish Tech Impact Awards are, I think, very unique to the Irish Fulbright Commission. These are academic research and professional research with focus on ICT focus. They're much shorter awards. Then the FLTA Awards, the Fulbright Language Teaching Assistantship. These are obviously just from the Irish Commission. The British Commission do not have these awards. These are for Irish speakers to go and teach Irish in the United States. And then the Schumann Awards are European Union awards to study, research, or lecture in the United States. Next slide, please, Rowan. And then there's another question. Can you apply to both the UK and Ireland at the same time? No, you cannot. You can only apply to one commission per year. So you can apply to the Irish Commission or the UK Commission or the French Commission or the Japanese Commission or whatever you're eligible for, but you cannot apply to more than one in one academic year. So the Student Awards, I manage these awards. These are for postgraduate studies in all disciplines. They're for visiting researchers or degree-seeking students. You must establish your own affiliation or apply for a degree course within the United States. So that means that you need to figure out where in the United States you want to go. Do you want to go East Coast, West Coast, mountain time, whatever? You need to figure that out for yourself, and definitely talk to your lecturers and to people in your field. Where, if you're in maths, where's the best place to go for maths or engineering or whatever you're interested in the United States. Therefore, minimum amount of time you can undertake an Irish Fulbright Student Award in the States is for 4 months, and the maximum time is 12 months. And the maximum award stipend is €30,000. Now, this is based upon a lot of different things. Someone going to Montana will get less than someone going to New York, because the cost of living in New York is a lot more than that in Montana. So it's based off a monthly maintenance rate. And if you're going for, say, 12 months, you're obviously going to get more than someone going for 4 months. Next slide, please. So in the Irish Scholar Awards, they're for people who have a PhD or 5 years relevant professional experience. They're to research or lecture in the United States. Again, you must establish your own affiliation in the US. They're for a slightly different duration, so they're from between 3 and 12 months, and the max stipend is €35,000. So there's the Scholar Awards. Next slide. Yeah, thank you, Ron. So then Tech Impact, they're for professionals or scholars in any discipline using ICT. So you can be doing agricultural studies, you can be doing Irish language. We've had a wide variety of people undertake these Scholar Awards from very numerous different disciplines. So preference is also given to early career researchers. So the PhD conferred since 2019. They're for non-commercial research exploring transformative power of ICT. And like I said, it's very, very broad. They're very short, just for 2 weeks to 3 months duration. So they're a lot shorter than the other awards. And the maximum award stipend is €11,000. And that's tax-free. So in the FLTA Awards, de aine le spéis Gaeilge, chun Gaeilge bhuana agus rangan a hógáil san stát aontaithe. These are very different awards in the sense that we match you to a host institution. So say if we're sending 10 Irish language teachers to the United States undertaking a Fulbright to teach the Irish language in the States, we actually match you. So say that the University of Idaho might be looking for an FLTA with Munster Irish, or New York University and Drew University in New Jersey, New York might want some Ulster Irish. So we kind of match it to the most appropriate place. These grants include room, board, tuition fees, and stipend, and travel and programming in the United States. For example, all the FLTAs from all countries all around the world meet up in Washington, D.C. for a week during December each year to share experiences. You must have an undergraduate degree, teaching experience, agus Gaeilge líofa. Next slide, please. And so there we have sponsored awards. If you're eligible to apply for a sponsored award, I'd strongly urge you to do so. So if you apply for an all disciplines award, you're applying against absolutely everyone. You're applying against people who are doing studies on red squirrels and construction. You're applying against absolutely everyone. Whereas if you're applying for sponsored award, there's less people applying for those sponsored awards. And we're very keen to kind of get people to fill these spots or sponsored awards, purely because the Commission has very limited funding, unfortunately. We'd love to be able to financially support far more awardees, because we get so many fantastic applications each year. But if you apply for a sponsored award and you're deemed not eligible for that award, or GSI or the EPA or whoever deem you ineligible and pick someone else, you'll then be considered for the all disciplines. So you're increasing your odds. So sponsored awards can be in targeted areas like creativity, environmental, cybersecurity. They may have more specific criteria, so definitely check out the flyers. We'll have the updated flyers on our website before our awards launch towards the end of August. But I'd strongly, strongly urge anyone interested in applying on checking out those flyers. You must also fill out a sponsored award form in the Fulbright application to be considered. But yeah, and next slide, please. And then, so some of the awards are only these sponsored awards. For example, the student-only awards encompass the Creative Ireland Creative Museum Fellowships, the LLMs, the Masters in Law, which I just like to point out, we have these kind of 3 fee waiver options with LLM law schools in the States. Because unfortunately, if you're undertaking a master's in the States, we do not cover your cost of your tuition, which would be quite high in the States. So we have 3 fee waivers for these 3 law schools. Then the Teagasc Award in Agriculture, Forestry, or Food is also just for students. Then there's some that are open to both student applicants and scholar applicants, such as the EI Award, so Enterprise Ireland Award, the EPA Award, and the GSI, and then there's some scholar-only awards like the HRB, the NUI Scholar Award, Creative Ireland, Tech Impact for Cybersecurity Award at Boston College. Next slide, please, Ron. So the application requirements, you must complete a personal information and a CV. Personal statement. So the personal statement is very much so about you as a person, and then there's kind of a project statement, which is more so about obviously the project, what you're going to do in the States. You must select 3 recommenders to write references for you that will have the same deadline as you, so pick people who will actually complete this in a timely manner. Students must provide us with transcripts, a copy of your passport. So like I said earlier, if you're applying to the Irish Commission, you must have an Irish passport at time of application, and that must be included in your application. Sample of work for artists, 3 hard copies, and then letter of affiliation for researchers or scholars. Now, we'd love to have that letter of affiliation, so the letter from your host institution saying they've accepted you. However, at times it's not always possible because the deadlines for different universities and states don't line up with our deadlines. So if possible, include it. Next slide, please. And then preparing your application. So study your research objectives. Why is your work groundbreaking? What's your rationale for going to the United States? Identify the specific areas you will concentrate on. Explain the research questions with objectives, methodology, and expected results. And what impact will this have on your discipline, research, and career? So your personal statement, this is about you personally. Tell us about you, your personal and professional ambitions, motivations, and interests, what you hope to achieve in the US and upon your return, and the role and benefit of being a Fulbrighter. Please do not rehash your study objective essay or CV. And remember, this is an indication of your written and communication skills. And next slide, please. Diversity and inclusion. We welcome candidates from underrepresented communities, areas of research, home organizations, and HEIs, geographical areas, ethnicities, I can't say it, and ability. Fulbright Ireland is really not supposed to just be about an exchange between, say, Dublin and New York, or Cork and California. It's supposed to be about anyone who considers themselves Irish. So Belfast and Maine, and it's supposed to really represent Irish people. Next, please. That's also another point about finding a host. Sometimes a lot of people say apply to go to Harvard, and it can be quite tiresome for the interview panel to have everyone come in, oh, I want to go to Harvard. It kind of gets, dare I say it, boring, as in, because like I said, it's supposed to be a meaningful exchange between people of Ireland and people in the US. So in my 5 years with the Commission, I don't recall having anyone go to North and South Dakota. I'd love to see more people aim to go to those states. So it's really supposed to be a meaningful exchange. So who do you want to work with? Research experts in your field. We welcome diversity where you want to go. Reach out to Fulbright alum and US Fulbright alumni. Use existing Fulbright links, sponsors, ask your mentors, select a degree, or choose a host institution. But it should make sense for where you want to go, as in you might want to go to Notre Dame if they're famous for an LLM in human rights. It should really make sense. So next slide. So the Creative Ireland Museum Fellowships, if I was eligible to apply for this award, I'd love to. So these are research opportunities open to student categories only to apply to the Harry Ransom, Exploratorium, or the Smithsonian. I've been to the Exploratorium, it's very impressive. And then Smithsonian, I think anyone who's ever been to DC, you cannot help but stumble upon a Smithsonian. They're everywhere. They're 3 of the most recommended museums in the States. Each of these awards are specific eligibility criteria. So see the flyers, you might have to be a master's or PhD student, and you must seek a letter of support from the host and include this in your Fulbright application. But they're incredible institutions. So if you have an interest in museum studies, definitely check out the catalogs, because these museums have such wide catalogs. There's something for a lot of people in there if you're interested in conducting research in the States. Next slide, please. Then the LLMs. Now, if you apply to an LLM course in the States outside of these 3 schools that we have sponsorship with, in Mara School of Law in Indiana, Notre Dame, and Penn, you may be granted a fee waiver. But as far as I'm aware, no one has actually conducted a list of every single 3rd level institution in the States, because there's thousands of them that offer fee waivers to Fulbrights. So you may apply for a different LLM at a different law school, and they may offer you a fee waiver if you receive a Fulbright Award. But these are 3 law schools we can at least guarantee you will obtain a fee waiver to attend. So definitely seek similar waivers because they're very, very, very expensive. We have other associate awards. So Florida Poly STEM Graduate Assistantship, Master and Degree Graduate Assistantships in STEM programs includes direct payment for services as teaching and or research assistant and tuition support. The University of Southern California MSc or PhD programs, MSc in an engineering or computer science discipline, partial tuition waivers for MSc programs, engineering, computer science, PhD program in a broad range of disciplines, and full financial support. Next slide. So I love sitting down and talking to people who do my job like Angelina in other countries, because I do believe that a lot of these things vary from country to country. There's a lot of like the 2-year home rule that kind of apply to every country around the world that has Fulbright. But the way Fulbright Ireland does it is at review stage, we get 3 experts in your field to kind of read your academic record and your project statement. And the majority of the marks the shortlisting stage. And we get a gender and internationally balanced kind of panel and a mix of people from different institutions to review your application. And the people who don't know you. So if you're applying from University of Ulster, we won't get someone from Ulster University reviewing your application. But at the review stage, the emphasis is definitely on your project statement and on that. And it's less so about the cultural engagement and leadership. But then if you're called to interview, odds are the people on the interview panel will not be experts in your field. You might be a veterinary surgeon, and the people on the interview panel will be Fulbright alum who might be historians and in the social sciences and might be lecturers of German. So they're going to focus on the interview. The majority of the marks will go for the cultural engagement and leadership, because Fulbright is kind of about leadership. If you are a student, we want to see that there's leadership potential in you. We want you to be a leader in your field going forward, or if you're a scholar, we want to see that you've demonstrated leadership capabilities. On the interview stage, it will focus less on your academic record and your project statement. The interviewers are going to read what the expert reviewers in your field said about you. So I think that's definitely worth knowing. Next slide. So the Schumann Awards, these are actually managed by our colleagues in the Belgian Commission. So you apply through fulbrightschumann.eu. There's a separate application which opens in December, so it's a different timeline. If you're applying for Schumann, please let us know in the Irish Commission if you're an Irish citizen that you're applying to the Schumann Awards. And like we said earlier, you can only apply for 1 Fulbright in any year. So you can apply to the British Commission, the Irish Commission if you're eligible, or the Schumann, so through the Commission in Belgium. These are co-funded by the European Union. They're in US-EU relations policy or EU affairs. Again, it's postgraduate research or lecturing for scholars or doctoral interest for students. International educators will match with US institutions, and innovation awards supporting research at the intersection of technology and policy. And they're open to applications from EU member states. Next slide, please. I think we covered, the US categories. Sorry, they look quite similar to the Irish categories. So the US Student Awards are for postgraduate US students to come and undertake masters and PhDs in Ireland. US Scholar Awards are for people, PhDs or relevant professional experience to come and lecture in Ireland and to do research. The US Specialist Awards are academic professional short-term awards. The US Global Scholar Awards are academic professional in 1 or more countries. So we've had global scholars go to, say, Portugal and Ireland or Romania and Ireland. And then the Schumann Awards, quite similar, are for Americans to undertake lecturing in 1 or more EU countries. Next slide, please. So then the US Awards in Ireland, so the US Specialists, we are awarded in Ireland 5 a year to come to Ireland. The institution applies to the Commission and they address critical priorities. They're a short-term award, 2 to 6 weeks. They're open from June to September 2021 for the 2022 year visit. Roster specialists is available. Specialists can also be invited to apply. Next slide, please. The specialists are definitely there to kind of, they're a great cost-saving way to get an expert to come in to your institution. So they're just a list of sponsored awards we have for US and Ireland and for scholars in Ireland. But if an American wants to come and go to the University of Ulster or Queen's or another 3rd level institution in Northern Ireland or the North, whatever way you want to say it, they apply through, they should talk to Angelina and the British Commission Next slide, please. So next steps, reach out to recommenders, select host institutions, research the Fulbright ethos, talk to a Fulbrighter, follow us on social media, and send your queries to awards@fulbright.ie and consult our website. And it's absolutely fantastic that you attended today, primarily because you can get planning now and you've plenty of time before the application opens. I'm going to pass you over to Angelina, who's with the UK Commission, and I'm really looking forward to this because it's so interesting to hear how Fulbright differs from jurisdiction to jurisdiction.
Hi, everyone. Well, first of all, I just want to thank Paula for such a fantastic presentation. It's going to make my job much easier. And also many thanks to the Irish Commission for allowing me to join you this afternoon. So my name is Angelina Vricevic, and I'm a program manager at the US-UK Fulbright Commission based in London. And I'm going to very briefly talk about the awards which we offer because you may be interested in them as well. And I'm going to start by looking at our eligibility criteria, as I'm being told this is going to be the hot slide of today. The majority of our applicants and our awardees are UK citizens. It doesn't matter where they reside as long as they're not in the US. Now, if you are from Northern Ireland, you are eligible by default, basically. So whether you're a dual national or whether you hold either citizenship, as long as you are from Northern Ireland, we will consider you. So you are eligible for nearly all of our awards. We have also opened our awards to the citizens of other countries, both in the EU and outside the EU, but there are some conditions attached to this eligibility clause. So if you happen to be a citizen of an EU country, non-EU country, so basically you're not a British citizen or not an Irish citizen residing in Northern Ireland, but you've built your life in the UK, please get in contact with us directly and we can discuss your circumstances. There is just one exception to these eligibility criteria, and this is the British Friends of Harvard Business School Award. So only UK citizens are eligible for this award. Next slide, please. Thank you. So again, similar to our Irish colleagues, we have quite a wide variety of awards. So the All Disciplines one is the most popular. I guess the situation is very similar to Ireland. We receive a variety of applications for very different institutions in the US, from scientists and artists and singers and you know, lots of different people. So this is something to be mindful of. And if you feel that you may be interested or suitable for a partner award, again, we would very strongly encourage you to consider applying for a partner award. And we have sort of like two main categories of partner awards. So the first one is a sort of more discipline or academic area specific award. So for example, we have a scholarship with BAFTA, we have an award in journalism, an award in medical studies. So these awards can be taken up at any institution in the US as long as your program is suitable or belongs to this particular academic discipline. We also have a number of partnerships with US institutions, and these awards are both university and discipline specific. So for instance, if you would like to do law, you can go to Indiana University. We also have two awards for in the area of public policy, which is a very popular choice as well. And we have quite a similar situation with Scholar Awards. So we have the All Disciplines Awards, which again are the most popular ones. And then we have a selection of kind of more academic area specific awards. Thank you. Next slide, please. So different awards offer different financial packages. So all postgraduate university partner awards offer at least a full tuition fee waiver, and some of them also offer a stipend. So for example, our award with Brown University is the most generous one we have. It includes a full tuition fee waiver for 5 years, a very generous living stipend, lots of other additional costs covered, medical insurance as well. The majority of our postgraduate grants offer a contribution towards your tuition fees and living expenses, and this contribution ranges from $45,000 to $60,000, depending on the award you would like to apply for. And the All Disciplines Award offers up to $45,000. The situation with our Scholar Awards is slightly different. So we offer a stipend, and the stipend ranges from $3,000 to $5,000 per month. But also some partner awards offer additional benefits, such as accommodation, for example. Now, in terms of this study, which you can do in the US, sorry, yeah, thank you. So, I know, can you please go back to the previous slide? Yes, thank you. So in terms of the study you can do in the US and our awards, the majority of our applicants apply for a degree program. So it's either a master's or PhD. If you're interested in the master's, it can be a 1 year, it can be a 2 year. I know sometimes there are some sort of like special 3-year programs. So basically it's fine, it's up to you, it doesn't have to be a 1 year program. We also consider applications from the applicants who would like to do research in the US. So for instance, if you're enrolled on a PhD in the UK and you want to go to the US to do research towards your PhD dissertation, you can apply to us for funding. We also consider applications for independent research as long as you're planning to go to a university in the US to do that research project. And we also fund sort of the equivalent of the UK postgraduate diploma certificate, which is normally quite unusual. If you're interested in our Scholar Awards, so that would be either towards doing research or lecturing, and the grants are between 3 and 12 months. Thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you. So if this sounds of interest to you and you would like to find out more, I would say our website is a very good starting point. So even though the competition is currently closed, we have kept all the information we have available on the website. So for instance, you can go and review the application instructions right now, even though the application portal is closed. And we do update those instructions every year, but you can still get a very good understanding of the selection process and what we're looking for in our applicants. So you can start preparing now. It's also a very good time to start looking at university options. Paula has spoken extensively about the importance of this element. And it is indeed the case that basically your ability to explain, to compel us why you have selected a particular institution will to some extent determine the outcome of your application. And not everyone realizes that there are a lot of institutions in the US. We're basically talking about over 4,000 universities. So really a lot of work is involved to narrow those options down. We are also currently working on our new events catalog. So this information is not yet available on our website, but we will start scheduling webinars starting probably from the end of the next month. So the format of our events is kind of quite straightforward. I normally offer quite a short presentation which focuses on a very specific sort of application process element. For instance, why people apply for partner awards, or how to write a compelling personal statement study objective. And then we have an extensive Q&A session after the webinar. Also, I do want to point out, and this is the screenshot I have in my presentation, our Education USA advising team run a lot of webinars throughout the year, and the information they provide is much broader. It goes far beyond the Fulbright Awards. So they talk about things like how to submit a strong application to a US institution, sort of more generally, how to narrow down your institution choices. So these webinars may be extremely helpful regardless of whether you end up applying to Fulbright for one of our awards. So that's it from me. And I think I know we'll be very happy to take your questions, but I think we've got something else planned for now.
Perfect. So I think next we have Maeve Moriarty, who's been kindly waiting for us. So Maeve is a Fulbright alum, as I mentioned earlier, and she is going to talk about her Fulbright experience. So with that, I'll hand over to Maeve.
Hi, hopefully you can hear me. I've had to join on my phone, so the internet connection's not been kind to me today. Yeah, so I'm a Fulbright alum, and Paula and yourself, everyone, have already kind of highlighted that I went to a couple of universities. So I applied for my Fulbright quite early on in my PhD process. I think I started my PhD 2016, and I applied in 2017 for the Fulbright Award, and then I spent most of 2018 in the United States. So the reason I applied for Fulbright was because, well, the ethos was incredible. The whole idea of a cross collaboration and getting to work and learn in a completely different way really interested me. So before I applied for the grant, I did a little fact-finding mission, and I went and visited one of my host institutions in advance. So I went over to Alaska to take part in a council meeting. So sorry, I should actually take a step back. My PhD research is looking at climate change and fisheries, so looking at the changing fish distributions. And so I built a little project that allowed me to go to the United States as well, and was very much aligned with the research I was doing within my PhD. The links I had, I was quite lucky in that my PhD research supervisors, 2 of them were already in the United States. So it made choosing my institutes really just a super obvious choice. So I didn't have to do a lot of work to figure out where I wanted to go. I had a supervisor in Alaska and I had a supervisor in Cornell. So that was the obvious choice for me. So yeah, I did a little fact-finding mission. I went over to the FAST lab in Alaska. That's the Fisheries, Aquatic Science and Technology Lab, which is a really practical lab that's very focused on policy links and engaging students. One of the things I love about their ethos there is it fits actually quite well with the Fulbright, in that it's all about engaging students in active learning. And there was a lot of opportunities there for me to do some mentorship and get involved with the master's students there. It's a really unique blend of very intensive but traditional coursework and then really applied fisheries research. And they work quite a lot with native communities, which was something I was super excited about. And then Cornell was a completely different experience. It's obviously one of the Ivy Leagues. I was working with a quantitative ecologist there with an interest in socioeconomics. And you know, the they're completely different. So just widened my my understanding of the ecosystems there. Being in Cornell allowed me to attend lectures with really incredible people like Rosemary Grant, and she is one of the people who studies Darwin's finches in the Galapagos Islands and studies evolution there. So you get like immersed in this amazing research culture. When it comes to the Fulbright experience, I have so many moments that are just incredible, and I cannot. Anyone that's listening today that's thinking of applying, I can't recommend it enough. It is a phenomenal program. When I was in Cornell, I also got to work with other Fulbright researchers, notably a Norwegian mathematician called San Sundby, who does amazing research. I also, it's funny you mentioned it, Paula, I had an invitation to go behind the scenes in one of the Smithsonian museums. So, you know, when you're, if you do get a Fulbright, one of the things I will say is say yes to every experience. So one of the things I did get to do was go to a native community in Alaska and assist with a research program over there. And I learned so much. What I brought to the Fulbright and what I've actually kept doing since is quite a lot of mentorship. So I've done some mentorship for some American master's students and kept in touch with them over the last few years. And then I've engaged a little bit with the webinars that the Fulbright Commission have put on, some amazing ideas about unconscious bias, and you know, imposter syndrome was another lecture I attended, or webinar I attended, and the community within the Fulbright, they're just such fabulous people in Ireland. One of the things that I took away from Paula, and I just think it's fabulous, is her joy and use of the Irish language, and it really made me start speaking a little bit more. And even on Twitter, you've got like hashtag Trasna and things like that, and you can just engage a little bit more there. So it's kind of brought me closer to well. So yeah, as a researcher in Ulster University, anyone who wants to apply, you know, I'm here. You can come and talk to me. You can talk through the application process, and I'm happy to engage with anyone who would like to put an application in for the coming year. So.
Perfect. Thanks a million for that, Maeve. Thanks for all the insights. It's great to hear that you loved it so much. That seems to be a common thread in all of these roadshows that we've done. Just a quick one. I might just put this question to you, Maeve. So someone's asking who should be the recommenders, because that's kind of one of the first steps that, that's a kind of a simple step after this webinar, is to maybe reach out to some people for your recommenders, because, people are quite busy, and especially once kind of lockdown ends, people might have less free time. So if you can ask your recommenders now. But so who did you use for your recommenders, Maeve?
I used a previous employer that I had a really good relationship with, and could give me and could give a good kind of overview of who I am as a person. So I had an academic recommendation. I think you also have to have like a personal recommendation as well. I can't remember the exact rules, but I definitely went for an employer.
That seems to be gone.
And one of the feedback I got was about having a very clear and concise research plan, but also knowing and having a very good understanding of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do there. That was actually, I think, what got me the award, was that I could visualize and I knew where I was going to stay in Alaska. I knew how that program was going to work because I had gone over for a previous visit. So I applied for one of the Fulbright, the Marine Institute Travel Awards to travel over to Alaska in the first place. And that's, that's something that maybe is unusual, but for me, I'm a very visual person. I need to see what I'm going to be doing and who I'm going to be working with. So that really helped when I came.
Internet seems to be going down slightly. Oops.
If you can find one.
Sorry, Paula, my internet seems to be going down quite a bit. So if I do drop off.
Yeah. Do you want to make me co-host just in case?
Yeah, you are co-host there anyway.
Sorry. I shouldn't have questioned Rowan. Sorry, he's brilliant at these things, and thank you for all your hard work organizing all of these. Sorry, I think Aideen had a very interesting question. So Aideen asks, for home rule, is it that you must leave the US for 2 years and can only return to Ireland, or could you perhaps go to the UK or another country afterwards rather than return to Ireland? So I think even in the 5 years since I started working with the Commission, the world was a simpler place. 5 years ago, I could have told you with confidence, yes, you can undertake that 2-year home rule anywhere within the European Union. Now that the UK is no longer part of the European Union, we most definitely cannot with confidence say you can undertake your 2-year home rule. In fact, I'd say if you undertake your 2-year home rule in England, Scotland, or Wales, perhaps Fulbright isn't for you. We cannot even fully say with confidence that you can undertake that 2-year home rule in a country like France or Spain, but you'll definitely be able to undertake the 2-year home rule in the Northern Ireland, try not to offend anyone, or in the Republic. You will be able to do it there, but it is an ever evolving situation and it is a question for Homeland Security, and unfortunately rules are evolving. And then, sorry, Eamon O'Keirda asked, can kind of more senior academics apply for the FLTA Awards? Please do apply. Yes, most definitely can. We will, if you've other interests, research interests, we'll try and place you in an institution, perhaps Notre Dame or somewhere, that you can fulfill other research interests while you're teaching Irish in the United States. One of the best things about the FLTA Awards, not only do you teach or lecture Irish in third level institutes in the States, there's significant additional travel opportunities, and also you can undertake courses yourself. So you can undertake courses as a student yourself for free that will possibly significantly help your research. And sorry, then there's another question I see about Does Fulbright Ireland anyway ever give more than €30,000 for a student award, because masters in states can cost significantly more than 30,000? Unfortunately, we have limited budgets, and we'd love to be able to be in a position to give more. At least that 30,000 is tax-free. We do have a limited opportunity fund. So when someone applies and is successful and we're given 30 grand or whatever they're given, it's a recent thing. I think last year was the first year we implemented it, that if you can just send us a rationale as to why you would need extra support, we will try our best to find additional money to support people to uptake their awards. But that's the reason it's so important, I think, if you're trying to undertake a master's in the States, to seek a fee waiver if it's not one of our sponsored awards or partner awards, as Angelina talked about, just because education in the States is very expensive. Angelina, I don't know, you said a lot of your sponsored awards in the UK Commission, also you have fee waivers, is what you have as well, fee waivers with certain hosts.
Yes, so we have not that many, or I would say maybe not as many partnerships as we would like to, which offer a very generous award. So all of our partners offer at least a full tuition fee waiver, but we obviously appreciate the fact that education in the US in general is quite expensive. I guess a few things to consider is, first of all, I know we all want to go to the Ivy League, but if the financial concerns or financial constraints is a big issue, maybe it's worth looking outside the Ivy League. It's also the location. So for instance, we have this Indiana award. So you get full tuition fee waiver if you get the award. Now, Indiana is one of the cheapest states to live in. So again, something for you to consider. So maybe, if again, the financial situation is a concern, maybe not New York, maybe not California, because those places are extremely expensive. So, you can find a fantastic institution which is very well known, which will offer you, a wonderful course. But if you make a strategic choice in terms of, how you approach that search and how you narrow down your choices, you may actually end up finding a very good option. And also, again, based on sort of like real examples, we encourage our grantees to be very honest with their institutions when negotiating funding. And it may feel like an extremely awkward conversation, but please do email them and call them and say, look, I can't afford it unless you give me more money. And very often our grantees do manage to negotiate, maybe not necessarily a full tuition fee waiver, but I've heard of multiple in-state fee offers, and sometimes it can be about a 50% discount. So it is very tangible.
Yeah, sometimes I've had that happy experience. Yeah, exactly. Just as Angelina said, that they said to Penn or whoever, can I have a fee waiver? And they've actually been awarded it. So yes, I totally concur with Angelina about negotiation skills. There's a question from someone who's a Polish citizen who I believe is resident in Northern Ireland or the 6 counties. So if you're a Polish citizen and you only have a Polish passport, that's the only passport you have, and you're resident in the north, in Northern Ireland, you're not eligible to apply to the Irish Commission in the Republic. If you're a Polish citizen with just a Polish citizenship, no other citizenship, and you're a resident in the Republic, you could apply to the Irish Commission. Angelina is someone who has a Polish passport, who's resident in Northern Ireland, is eligible to apply to the British Commission.
Yes, so basically, I would say if you're considering applying to the London-based commission, please contact the commission directly, and we will discuss them, because there are some requirements which apply to non-UK citizens and non-Irish citizens who are not from Northern Ireland. But there is a possibility of you being accepted at the London-based commission.
I think that is all the questions that have popped up. Just one thing on the 2-year home rule, Paula, am I correct in saying that so it can be cumulative? So let's say they come back from the US and they spend maybe a year in Ireland and then 6 months in France and then come back for another year in Ireland, then they have met the eligibility for the 2-year home rule. It doesn't mean that you have to come back immediately from the US, spend 2-year block in Ireland or the UK. That you can, it can be over, let's say over 5 years, you spend 2 years in the place that awarded you. That's how the 2-year home rule works. You don't have to have a 2-year block. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. It is an ever-evolving situation, however, but yes, that is correct. And like I said before, you can go over and give a lecture in the States, and you can go to the States on a holiday and get an ESTA. It just means you can't get a visa to work and live in the States. Paula's question, what kinds of activities could one do to identify host institutions in the States? Talk to your mentors, talk to people in your area of expertise. I don't know, is it geology, whatever it is, talk to experts in your research where the best places to go in the United States are, and sometimes just email them or pick up a phone call. I believe that institutions in the States, when they're being ranked in league tables, they take in consideration how many Fulbrighters they attract and how many Fulbrighters they send out. So it's actually in their best interest to have Fulbrighters on campus. But even if you aren't awarded a Fulbright, it's impressive in itself to even be shortlisted. So definitely mention Fulbright when you're cold calling or emailing an institution. I'd say Angelina may have something else to add to that, or that would be your advice in the British Commission as well.
To be honest, that's 100% valid. Just to kind of add something, so some of the things to consider in addition to this is whether the institution you're interested in offers any funding to international students. So sometimes it's not very straightforward. They don't make that information very clear from my experience. Also, Paula, I'm not sure, do you have the Education USA advising team as well? So
we do.
Yeah. So I would I love attending their webinars. I learn so much. So I would say, regardless of where you are, what commission you are interested in, go to those webinars, because as I said, the information goes kind of far beyond the Fulbright Awards. So they tend to talk quite a lot about what it means to kind of find the right fit. So it may be the kind of the ethos of the institution, the activities they offer, maybe something religion based, or there are kind of lots of things which you wouldn't normally think about, at least kind of in the UK. So yeah, this is kind of what I would add to Paula, what you've mentioned.
And can I just say, I was really glad that Angelina mentioned community colleges earlier on, because it really is a more meaningful kind of exchange if people are going to a diversity of different academic institutions. And also, if you might be one of 200 perhaps Fulbrighters in MIT. One of my LLM students, actually, I think he went to Columbia, and there was something ridiculous, like 50 different Fulbrighters from Germany in different places. Like, you're not that special. If you're going to somewhere there, perhaps you might be one of 50 or one of 200 Fulbrighters, whereas I imagine you might have a more meaningful experience and you might stand out more if you're the only Fulbrighter. I don't know if Maeve would agree with me on that point.
Yeah, so when I was in Alaska Pacific University, I was the only Fulbrighter there. And they were just so incredible and so open, and it was a very different experience to Cornell for sure. So yeah, the fact that I have the kind of both sides of it, honestly, I would go back to Alaska and stay there forever. It was just so welcoming, so lovely. Like, the people I met, the experience I had, and what I learned from my colleagues, the people I'm still in touch with, the openness. So in Alaska Pacific University, it's a smaller college. They provided me with free accommodation for my entire stay. There was no fees. They were just incredible. And like you said, I think the prestige of having a Fulbright, and I was actually the second Fulbright from Ulster University to go to that lab. There was another individual a couple of years before me. So they had a Fulbrighter, and they spoke about him like he was a minor celebrity, so they really do take an awful lot from the experience as well. And the lab I went to was just phenomenal. They were such amazing people. I don't know if you can see behind me, there's some pictures. I've just stepped back away from my front door. But I got to go to a place called Lake Clark as part of my work. And I mean, you're being put on a little plane that flies and then lands on a lake, and you're getting to see bears in the wildlife, and it's called work. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. So like it's you spend a lot of time in the lab, but it's more about the connections and the people you get to meet, and the lifelong friendships. Like, I still speak to the girls that I shared an office with on a weekly basis, so I'm really close to them. Some of them came over to my wedding, I've gone to theirs, it's just phenomenal. The lifelong friendships you can make from this. Whereas in Cornell, it was just a much bigger place, much more cosmopolitan. I actually really suffered a lot from imposter syndrome in the Cornell experience. And I found the networking quite like intensive, and you had to be on all of the time. You know, whereas the lifestyle in Alaska was just much more like my level, you know. So I think, yeah, like you say, you know, you have these grand ideas about, and we do think quite a lot about the Ivy League experience, and you know, the bell towers, and that, and it is a really worthwhile experience, and I mentioned some of the highlights from that. But you know, the community college experience, or the slightly smaller university, I definitely took more away from that if I had to choose one or the other. So yeah, definitely wouldn't go with just the ranking tables. I'd go with the people that you want to work with and what you're going to get from that experience, rather than the prestige, right?
Excellent, very good.
I think we have one last question here. So can someone that has that became an Irish citizen apply? So even that person holds another citizenship, non-EU, they're cross-border, so they're living in Ireland, working in Northern Ireland, and they're a postdoctoral research lecturer. As far as I know, so if you have an Irish passport, they're Irish and they live in Ireland, I think they're eligible. Paula?
We've actually had, I had one student who had 3 different passports. I think she had an Irish passport, a French passport, and I'm going to say South African passport or something. It doesn't matter, so long as you have an Irish passport. It doesn't matter if you have multiple other passports, you can apply, so long as you don't, so long as one of your passports isn't American, so long as you're not a US citizen. So yeah, and look, as long as, if you have an Irish passport, it doesn't matter if you live in Northern Ireland or in the Republic, or if you live in France, Germany, Australia, it doesn't matter. If you have an Irish passport, you can apply to us.
Perfect. Thanks for all the questions, and thanks to everyone for attending. Huge thanks to Angelina and Maeve for your contributions today, and obviously to Paula for going through all of that. I will be sending on a video to you guys, so you can watch back this later and send it on to all your friends, and the slides as well. One thing I would say, so maybe this weekend, do, you know, look through the presentation and do one of the steps. You know, just get the ball rolling with your application. You're much more likely to apply then. And yeah, okay. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.